thanks for watching. Coming at you from SkyFi Audio in Glen Rock, New Jersey, where we restore vintage equipment. If you're a viewer of our channel, you know how much we love tuners, primarily because we are lucky enough to be in a great FM market. We've got WBGO, we've got a great NPR station in the city. So there's about 4 or 5 stations not far from here that provide a great signal with great programming. So we are big fans of all FM tuners, especially there's about 6 or 7 models that are top of our list, you know, including the Marantz 10B, the Tamberg 3001, the Macintosh MR78. This is the first SAE that we've got, and I've heard a lot about this tuner primarily because of its coolness factor. It's a good performer, don't get me wrong. It'll do an amazing job of bringing in mid to strong signals, but it delivers a lot of really cool features from a period where, you know, mid-fi or hi-fi was at its really peak. SAE, the early SAE stuff is highly collectible. This is no exception. SAE was a company that sort of went defunct in the 90s, but did really well in the 70s and 80s. This particular tuner, the Mark VI, comes from mid-80s, about 1985, 1986. It was expensive at the time, and it performed admirably. 2 cool things about it that we love is, one is the oscilloscope. You know we love tuners with oscilloscopes like the Marantz 10B or the Sequerra FM reference or any of the Sequerra reference tuners. This is a little bit of a simpler oscilloscope, much like the Marantz. It doesn't have the spectrum analyzer and some of the other modes that the Sequerra has, but it's a nice basic oscilloscope tuner with about a 3.5–4 inch tube display, which you see here on the left. It's used to find the center frequencies to visually understand when you've receiving the signal at its optimum point in the tuning dial. It's not very glamorous in terms of the shapes. It essentially, if you can see as I tune in a station, it'll start to oscillate and it'll move from left to right and help you identify what the middle point is. Let's go to a station here. 92.3 is fairly strong in our market. You see it here, it's illustrating its setting point. Right about here is the center tuning for it. So neat oscilloscope. It's actually cooler than it is functional. I like to use my ears mostly to find the center point of a radio station, but certainly coolness factor is out there. Now it has an external input for the same scope, so if you hook up a frequency generator, an oscillator, or just about anything else, you can get even cooler functions out of this oscilloscope. Another thing we love about this tuner is the utilization of Nixie tubes. This is pre-digital displays, so the only way they could give you numeric representation is by using these vacuum tubes that had filaments representing digits 0 through 9, and they were stacked one in front of each other, and that's why there's a difference in depth between the numbers that you see here. As I go through the dial, you'll see that. Let's focus, for example, on the last digit, the 0.1 integer. You'll see it that at the furthest most point, which is probably the 7, it starts to come forward as you tune through the 9, the 1, and the 3, and then it goes back again. So this is essentially just layers upon layers of filaments that are lighting up. They're using 3 of them, they're using 3 Nixie tubes. They are hard to source, so you want to make sure if you're looking for an SAE tuner that you find one with solid and bright Nixie tubes already in it. Now, there are a lot of clocks and cool things you can buy today, but sourcing really good vintage Nixie tubes is not an easy task. So let's go over some of the features of this tuner. On the left, you've got your selector between mono, auto, and stereo. Obviously, leaving it on auto makes perfectly good sense, and there is in fact a pilot light to show you whether you're receiving your signal in mono or stereo. Orange seems to be the mono signal, and when we find and locate a strong signal back to 92.3, you'll see it go red here. It's a little bit faint, but right now it's in stereo mode. Now, I'm not playing any radio stations because whenever we do, we get in trouble by YouTube. From YouTube, copyright violations. So you're just gonna have to put up with my voice. But trust me, 92.3 K-Rock is coming in nice and strong right now. On the oscilloscope over there is going crazy as we tuning the signal right about there. All right, going from left to right, we've got the display. We can show the FM signal. We can show the actual audio signal, or we can show the external, which is if you want to hook up a CD player or something else to the display. These four knobs are essentially just to control the oscilloscope. The top one is brightness. The bottom one is focus. And then these are to center it vertically and horizontally. So with no signal whatsoever, you want to sort of get it centered right between, this imaginary X mark right here. If you draw a line this way and then you draw another line between these 2 points, that's where you would want to center your oscilloscope. Moving on with the buttons, we've got an external sensitivity going between medium, high, and low, and a filter. You can engage an FM stereo filter or not. Power button, which is in the center. Now this is unusual by today's standards, but it was pretty common back in the 60s and 70s. A lot of equipment had their power button right here in the middle. I'm not sure of the logic of that, but it eventually went away and everything moved to the right, I guess for right-handed people. Next to the power, we've got the muting, which will essentially quiet the signal when you are not receiving a full, when the tuner is not detecting the entire carrier signal. The tuning knob, which is pretty self-explanatory. The threshold for the tuning muting is there, and then the level. This does have a variable and a fixed output. So this particular button here lets us change the volume. Let's take a look at the back. It's a nice aluminum anodized case. Also pretty high-end for the time, even by today's standards. You'll see a lot of the equipment, even nice equipment, has painted sheet metal. Well, not in this particular one. They used a bent an aluminum sheet that has been anodized and brushed black at the top as well. It's got a really nice chassis to it. You'll also find that it has, on the back you'll see from left to right, we've got our antenna inputs, pretty standard stuff, 375 ohm feeds right here. Here are our variable sets of outputs, our fixed outputs, and the external input that we talked about in case you want to use the oscilloscope for something else. And the MPX out in case you want to analyze it with a scope or some other device. Mark VI FM digital tuner is the label on it from Scientific Audio Electronics Inc. That's where the SAE comes from, made out of LA, California. This particular one has a serial number in the 60,000 range. Not sure where it sits in its lifespan. An AC fuse and 120 volt input from 50 to 60 hertz. So you could potentially take this tuner out of the country if you're in a country that has the same FM signals that we've got. Now on the side, there are some adjustments here. I imagine those are some more oscilloscope adjustments, those 2 holes there. And not much else. Again, this is the SAE Mark VI coming at you from SkyFi Audio. Please visit our website to see what sort of cool products we've got in place, skyfiaudio.com. And if you like the channel and the effort that we put behind it, please make sure you bookmark it and give us a thumbs up. Well, thank you for watching.